Damn! What? Damn! What? Hey! Damn!
When you talk about toughness and respect in wrestling, a guy no one F with in real life, one man stands very tall. The Undertaker. Even Randy Orton admitted this in interviews. During his early years, he was young, cocky, and reckless. Between 2006 and 2012, Randy was battling personal demons. Drugs, misbehavior, arrogance. And you know who kept him in check? The Undertaker. Orton has said Taker was one of the only men he feared disappointing, because Taker didn't play around. If you were reckless, he called you out. He was that father figure, but the kind of father who could break you in half if you stepped too far. And then there's the story everyone knows about. WrestleMania 14, 1998. Shawn Michaels was supposed to drop the WWE title to Stone Cold Steve Austin. But Shawn, at the peak of his ego, he told Triple H he didn't want to do business. He was difficult, stubborn, and ready to refuse. He didn't want to drop the belt. You know who stepped up? The Undertaker. The dead man literally threatened Shawn Michaels before the match, making it crystal clear. You're going out there, and you're doing business. Or else. If he didn't do the job that night, Taker was going to force him to. In fact, it's been said Undertaker was sitting backstage, tapping his fists, ready to beat Michaels down if he tried to pull anything. Shawn dropped the title, and years later, he admitted he knew better than to test The Undertaker. That's real authority. Shawn dropped the title to Austin that night, and it wasn't just because of Vince McMahon. It was because The Undertaker made sure it happened. And when it came to showing toughness in the ring, Undertaker wasn't afraid to get physical with anyone. At WrestleMania 9, back in 1993, he faced Giant Gonzalez, billed at over 8 feet tall and nearly 500 pounds. When he wrestled Giant Gonzalez, things got real. At one point, Gonzalez got too rough, hitting Undertaker hard and stiff in ways that weren't part of the plan. Undertaker didn't let it slide. He fired back. He attacked Gonzalez with no hesitation, hitting the Giant over and over again with strikes that showed he didn't care how big his opponent was. That night proved what wrestlers already knew backstage. Undertaker wasn't scared of anyone, no matter how huge or dangerous they looked, making it clear that even a man that size wasn't going to push him around. After that, Gonzalez backed off because he realized what everyone else already knew. You don't mess with The Undertaker, in the ring or out of it. Even legends like Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, two of the biggest stars of all time, have acknowledged how feared and respected The Undertaker was backstage. Stone Cold has gone on record saying Taker kept the entire locker room in line, and that if there was ever a problem, everyone looked to him to handle it. The Rock, too, has spoken about how Taker's presence commanded silence. A legitimate tough guy and the very definition of authority. Wrestlers knew that if they disrespected the locker room, they'd face more than just management. They'd face The Undertaker. These were guys who were megastars in their own right, but even they knew, you didn't cross The Undertaker. That's why, for 3 decades, nobody dared to mess with The Undertaker in real life. He wasn't just a legend inside the ring. He was the enforcer of respect outside of it. But the list doesn't stop there. Next, we'll talk about another wrestler whose reputation for toughness turned him into a beast. Number 2. When you say a wrestler nobody F with in real life, there's only one name that stops conversation cold: Brock Lesnar. Not because of a storyline, but because everything about the man screams one simple fact: do not test me. Let me show you why. Multiple wrestlers and insiders have described Lesnar as the type of guy you don't joke with. The Undertaker, one of the toughest men ever to work a squared circle, straight up said on Mike Tyson's Hotboxin podcast that Brock is not a people person. That's telling. When the dead man frames someone like that, you listen. You know it's serious. Even younger stars who get compared to Lesnar don't pretend to understand him. They tip their cap instead. Guys like Braun Breaker have publicly acknowledged the comparisons to Lesnar and spoken about Lesnar's aura and achievements with respect, not as a buddy, but as someone in a different league. Braun Breaker has said he takes comparisons one day at a time, making it clear Lesnar's presence is something you respect more than you imitate. He's someone you acknowledge as being in a league of his own. And Lesnar himself? He doesn't deny it. He's admitted he doesn't like people, that he'd rather live alone in the woods, far from crowds. In an interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin, He's even bluntly said that if a fan or WWE staff comes up to him at the wrong time asking for an autograph, he might just throw a punch. That's how much he values his privacy. But here's the moment that shows you exactly why no one pushes Lesnar. Royal Rumble 2018. Brock was in the ring with Braun Strowman, a legit monster himself. At one point, Braun hit Brock with a knee that was way too stiff. What did Lesnar do? He didn't wait, didn't whisper. He instantly responded by drilling Strowman in the side of the head with a brutal punch, so hard it dropped Braun to one knee. Then you can actually hear Brock yell, "Slow the F down, that wasn't acting. That was real." And Braun, a 6 feet 8 inches, 380-pound powerhouse, immediately cooled down, because even he knew you don't push Brock Lesnar. Even John Cena, who stood across from Lesnar more times than most, once called him flat-out dangerous. And Cena meant it. Most wrestlers are tough, but Lesnar isn't wrestler tough. He's cage fighter tough. Few men in WWE history could say they've beaten professional killers in a real octagon. Lesnar did. And that's why even his colleagues treat him differently, because standing across from Brock Lesnar isn't just a performance. It's standing across from someone who can end you for real in minutes. That's not hype. That's proof that Brock Lesnar is the one WWE wrestler nobody, and I mean nobody, ever dared to mess with in real life. Number 3. When people talk about real-life tough guys in pro wrestling, there's another name that comes up every single time. Ron Simmons. Long before he was shouting "damn" on TV, Simmons had already built a reputation that made fellow wrestlers treat him with pure respect, and sometimes even fear. Let's start with his background. Simmons wasn't just another guy who looked strong. He was a legitimate athlete. At Florida State University, he was an All-American football player, one of the best defensive linemen in the country. He was so good that FSU retired his jersey number, something they almost never do. He even had a stint in the NFL. That foundation gave him real strength, real toughness, and the kind of explosive power that carried over into wrestling. When Simmons walked into a locker room, everyone knew it. He had that no-nonsense presence. He didn't talk too much. He didn't play games. And everyone understood one thing: you don't test Ron Simmons. Even some of the biggest names openly acknowledged him. The Rock, who was coming up in the Nation of Domination under Simmons' leadership, has repeatedly said how much respect he had for Ron. In interviews, Rock has talked about Simmons being the kind of man you don't cross because he was the real deal. And then there's JBL, John Bradshaw Layfield. JBL has told stories about how Simmons wasn't just his tag team partner in the APA. He was like his big brother. JBL, who himself built a reputation for being hard-hitting, admitted that Simmons was the man he looked up to as a genuine tough guy. In fact, the whole APA gimmick worked because people knew it wasn't just acting. Simmons and JBL were legitimately intimidating, and Ron especially was the anchor of that. Wrestlers from that era, the 90s and early 2000s, will tell you flat out, Ron Simmons was someone you didn't mess with. He didn't need to throw his weight around or brag. His strength and presence spoke for him. If someone got out of line, they knew Simmons could shut it down instantly. And let's not forget, Simmons wasn't just tough. He was a trailblazer. In WCW, he became the first black world champion in professional wrestling history. That moment wasn't handed to him. It happened because people respected him enough, and he was believable enough, that putting the world title on him made perfect sense. So when you look back, you see the full picture. A college football legend, a world champion, a locker room enforcer, and a man respected by guys like JBL and The Rock. That's why Ron Simmons is remembered as one of the toughest, most respected wrestlers in history, someone nobody ever dared to cross in real life. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.